It wasn't upset at all.
Good evening, everybody.
No. He just had his first treatment today and he is innocent. If you're weak, I guess you say.
I'm just going to try it on for you.
Okay. Right, I'll tell you.
That's after the meeting.
I'll handle that now.
I know.
He just real drained a while ago. And that freaky.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
Mine ain't, mine's showing out. I don't know if it's the weather or what.
I don't know. He had his first treatment today, so.
Yes, sir, that's right.
Well, once I listened, I saw him on Thanksgiving Day.
He's still down there.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's a mess. She's doing real good. She's over in, she lives in Milledgeville and Fellowship, and Meriwether is a assisted living. She's doing good. Mary's not the best in the world. Knowing nobody keeps up with everybody. She's doing good. Health wise, she's good.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting December 9th, 2024 order. We'd like to welcome everybody to our December 9th, 2024 council meeting. As stated before, if you're not on the agenda, please refrain from speaking out. We will have prayer. And Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together once more again to take care of city business, Lord God. Touch each and every one that's here, Lord God, and the ones that are not able to come tonight, Lord God. We ask these and all your blessings in your son, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on the agenda, we have to approve our minutes. We have our council meeting September 16th, 2024, our workshop November 12th, 2024, council meeting November the 18th, 2024, and our public hearing November 21st, 2024, and we'll do those individually.
I make a motion, we accept the September 6th, 2024 minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no. Next, we have the workshop November 12th, 2024.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the workshop on November the 12th.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no. We have our council meeting November 18th, 2024.
I make a motion to accept the council meeting minutes for November 18th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no. Next, we have our public hearing on November 21st, 2024.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes, November 21st, 2024 for our public hearing.
The second motion.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no. We've done our pledge of allegiance, we're gonna skip over to our old business, which will be the quote proposal for GMA Gurma, Georgia First Responder PTSD program. I think you all have a copy of that proposal. I think we gave it at the last meeting, so everybody has pretty much had a chance to go over it. So what we need to do is just, decide we're gonna accept the, proposal to move forward.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal so we can move forward.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no. And we're accepting that tonight, but, we do have a representative that's gonna come down and actually, just reiterate with our first responders as to what that proposal is, entails. Next, we have the resolution of the mayor and council enacting a, moratorium of 180 days related to land use and development involving non-traditional housing structures and improvements. This is our second reading and adoption.
Yes, Mayor, and, there were no, I didn't hear any feedback from anybody. I've made no changes to, this resolution from the previous meeting, so it's the same, same thing. Again, the purpose of this would be to give you all an opportunity to, implement something in your zoning ordinance about how to deal with tiny homes. So that's the whole point of this, is to give 6-month moratorium on any kind of tiny home development.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions you may have on it.
So, being that we didn't have any, are you all with the resolution?
Yeah, I'm happy with the resolution. In fact, it's something we got to develop.
Yes.
Yes.
So we just need to, go ahead and vote on attorney.
Correct. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, Mayor.
I make a motion that we accept the new resolution.
I second.
In discussion, all in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no?
No.
What do we do, with that, attorney Nichols? This is a resolution to, to put it in place to what we have here in the city of Gordon. So, what is your recommendations on that, being that?
There weren't 4 votes.
We have to have 4 votes to carry, but we only got 3.
3 ayes and 1 nay.
Well,
And nobody has contacted you or anything?
no, I've not heard from anyone. If you've gotta have 4 votes, though, and, 4, Mayor, you're not allowed to, or you're not
Only
allowed.
at a time.
Only
At a time, okay. So then it would not pass if you don't have 4 votes then, and so, it did not pass. That doesn't mean we can't still look at
So that means-
updating your ordinance.
Yeah,
It's
we
just,
still have to update that ordinance with the
Right.
time. So we can move to, we can come back to it.
That's what the resolution was all about, actually, is create ordinance.
correct,
Right,
yes.
That doesn't mean that it's, in support of anything, it's just creating, rules for.
For
So
moving
you have to
forward.
put things for happen. It doesn't mean that it is something that's all right now. Council, I'm assuming, have to have a workshop with this to create the proper.
It would still be a good idea, I think, to have some sort of, workshop meeting, to discuss kind of what y'all would like to see in an ordinance, yes.
Okay.
So we can still certainly do that.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Next, we'll move to new business. Beer and wine license renewal.
Okay, I know we've got 4 in the city of Gordon, Betty Louise Hodges for Stop and Shop. This is where for TAAL 315 LLC, Marion Knight, for J Mighty, and Corey Hancock for Family Dollar. Okay, the first 3, they're complete. But Family Dollar has not turned in all their information, so I'd like to ask y'all to approve the first 3. And if y'all want to, y'all can give me permission when they turn in the rest of the paperwork, if it's in order, to go ahead and issue the license. It's up to y'all. But they left out a whole section of the paperwork.
You had to give it back to them. Okay.
That's Family Dollar.
Family Dollar. But the other 3 are in order, if you wanna go ahead and approve those tonight. And the other one, in the paperwork, since we may not have another meeting for January. I think that's kind of up in there.
Well, I make a motion to go ahead and approve those 3 and pending Family Dollars when they turn in all the necessary paperwork and to be approved by the city clerk. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no. We have the Rico printer lease renewal. That was the Rico printer,
That's printer in there.
that's our, right.
How much is it?
It went down from 206.42 a month to 196.70 a month. No,
Yeah,
no,
look.
I make a motion to approve the printer lease renewal.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye? All not in favor by saying no. Next, we have to approve our 24-25 proposed budget. And, yeah, our, proposed budget. I elaborate on that a little bit. We have our proposed budget, and in this proposed budget, we went back and we saw where it was under streets with the Christmas. We had it down at 2,000, so it was increased to 5,000 on that.
Did you ever correct the
That was the correction.
the other correction for that park?
Oh,
That had like 800, I think it was like
it
10,000.
should have been 10 instead of 8.
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on, let's see.
Is this
That's on the
including,
Parks and Recreations.
is this including the tax digest? Cause I heard it was rated.
Mr. Gavin, Gordon, did we include that tax digest with that?
This budget does not have the update to the tax digest. The information that I had, it was not exactly clear what the net property taxes is gonna be. So before we adjusted the budget for that, just wanted to make sure what that, final tax digest number was gonna be before we changed the budget. We can certainly, once we verify what the, digest number truly is, then we can adjust the budget in a future budget amendment. So, but it does not have any change to the tax digest.
Now, that doesn't have anything to do with the millage rate, because, those figures that we received, I was told that was, we had to make a decision if we were gonna, do the rollback or, for the millage rate.
Right, and that's, I don't know if y'all's even set your millage rate, but if you're not even set your millage rate, then it's kind of impossible really to say what your property tax revenue is gonna be if you hadn't set your millage rate.
Yeah.
So that would have to be set before, we could adjust the budget to, for your actual tax revenues for this coming up fiscal year.
Okay, so,
Just kind of point out real quickly, This budget, the budget itself did not change, but the pay scale got corrected.
Yes.
Now every staff or city staff is getting a 3% raise except for the superintendent and laborer. They're getting a little bit of an additional increase, but everybody else is getting a 3%. I think on the previous pay scale that you guys had received, I think it was a dispatcher was getting,
Yeah,
I think it was an 18% raise. We bumped that back down to 3%.
Okay,
So.
let me elaborate on that. With the pay scale, when we did the pay scale the last time, it was said in here that we were gonna do, the 10-year for anybody that's 10 years or more. We had one young lady at the, police department that had been here, we were saying 10 years, but in actuality, we have more than one. So it's not fair that if we're gonna do just one with a 10-year, with 10 years or more, you would have to adjust the whole board. You have to go across the whole board. So right now, we can't afford to do that.
I mean, it makes sense
So-
if you're gonna give one person a raise because they've been here more than 10 years, and everybody that's been here more than 10 years should get the same treatment.
So that was the only thing with the, pay scale that, I saw needed to be adjusted. If we're gonna stick with one, giving one, you have to do across the board to everybody, because in actuality, we do have more than one person.
And the other two that are getting it more, I think that's because it's almost needed to try to keep people in that position. And
Well,
not have these
actually,
turnovers.
there is not that they're getting more, it's that they're changing positions.
Okay,
So that was already there, so they were actually moving to a new position.
okay.
That's what, that's what that is. So you all wanna elaborate on that? In reference to the pay scale, what's your take on that?
I mean, I think before we didn't even, I think we chose to, abolish that percentile for the over 10 anyway from the previous. We didn't implement that.
Actually, we didn't. We only did one person, which, that's why, I reached out to Mr. Garber and I said, we need to adjust that, because if you're gonna do one person, you need to do all.
I didn't know.
The 10, when I looked at the pay scale, it only was for one person.
Well, the pay scale was never adopted, but it was discussed with a pay scale that had, that one person that had been here more than 10 years getting an additional raise beyond the 3%. So it was never adopted and you put it into place, but it was discussed at the last, but I think at the budget workshop that we had, that, that was gonna be the case. So, but this pay scale that you guys are potentially adopting tonight would not include, any, except a 3% raise for all staff, other than the the superintendent and laborer.
Yeah, let me just get clarity on the positions, that it's the lead man, position and the heavy equipment operator.
It would be promoting D up to lead man and Devontae up to heavy equipment operator.
And those line items are currently in the budget already.
This already in the budget.
And with the 3%,
Well, to the rate that those positions, yes.
Yeah, which would actually be more than,
So it'd be a 3% more than a 3% raise for them individually, but that position now.
was already there, there's nothing that we added into.
yeah, just put them in the position. Okay.
All right, I need some feedback, what do y'all think?
You gotta understand this, about the two workers at, dispatchers. How we compensate them, how we gonna get that problem rectified there?
How we could get it rectified would be to, if we're gonna give it to them, we'll have to go across the board.
But won't that still put us in the same predicament we're in now?
What?
About both of them making the same amount. One has been there 3 years, making the same one has been there about 20 years.
Well, not, no, because, it will, that position, say for instance, one of the, it would take whatever they're at now,
Mhm.
with that position, with that increase, it would make them go up, because they're not on the same pay scale. They're not getting paid the same. So whatever, if she's getting paid $10 an hour and she's getting paid $15 an hour, it will increase, you know, the pay for whatever position you're in.
Okay.
I think in the future, moving forward, that every department should have a division. You got, in the police department, you got the dispatchers, you got officers. And I think each division within every department should have a lead person.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, we could establish that later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way that's one way to retain employees, because they'll have something to work toward. And, like I said, I think everybody needs, like, public works got a lead man. You know, every division need a lead person. Not saying that person, you know, we can make some criteria for it, but, you know, based on seniority or whatever, but when you got 2 employees that's equally employed, then, you know, you can always make one the lead and the other one the assistant.
Yeah.
That's just my suggestion for the
And I know we don't have, and I would love to, you know, for the ones that've been here 10 years or more, so to give them, you know, that, but looking at our budget, we can't accommodate everybody. I think we have probably 1, 2, 3, 4 that have been here 10 years or more.
Yeah.
So we would have to go across the board to give them that increase, so.
Seems to me it needs to be, I mean,
It's something that,
conceptually, I think that just would be a heavy burden for the city,
It
because
will.
one thing I have to consider that I do not know is that how the disparity came about. Because I'm assuming that when employees of the city are acquiring their pay raises, that is like it is now.
It is.
That is pretty much across the board. And if you try to adopt a policy trying to say a certain period of 10 years, et cetera, to bump them up to a pay scale or something like that, I think that's just an expense for a city right now. We're battling with a budget already. That would just, to me, it's no need to do that.
Right.
If they're already getting compensated accordingly. Now, that's just my thought on that. And I don't know, like you said, the employee been here 20 years, et cetera. I don't even know the frequency of the pay raises, pay scale that has been coming in the past, if they were able to do that. And all the time, the city may not be able to accommodate that. Because still, you gotta go by the revenues that are raised within the city. And so I think that if we can hold true to the he has his departments, every position has a salary scale, and that let him adjust that accordingly. If it's gonna be universal, the council, we did the pay increases accordingly, and then,
Well, actually, with Chief Pay Scale, his department, with the patrolman and the captain and all of them, they can go up the rank. But when you're talking about your, dispatchers, you have
Yeah, they stay the same.
Yeah, they stay the same.
They
So
stay the
they
same.
don't
The
have-
day you hire them, they stay the same unless they get a raise.
They don't have, they have a dispatcher, then they have a dispatcher certified. I think that's different.
They all certified.
Yeah.
okay.
You got a dispatcher been there for over 20 years, 2 of them. Well, one's attacked. She's terminal relations coordinator. She's over all the GCI, so she's basically like over the dispatcher, make sure they're doing their jobs right through the GVI. And she gets paid a little bit more for hers than what everybody else gets paid. But everybody else fires somebody new today, and say for instance, one of them's been with me for 24 years. The person that comes in completes her probation 3 months, completes everything in time, she gets up on top pay, she's making the same as the other one is. Just a little bit of advantage, I mean, like,
Yeah. So in other words, the pay scales have been appropriately, accommodated, addressed, so to say. It's just there's no other room for any other dispatchers to move up like the
That's
other
correct.
officers. And so, still, I do understand.
yeah.
I do understand. and
I
don't
understand
wanna sound
it's
like
hard to do, cause I
it's
already
not
talked with
compassionate.
Mayor about it, about the,
You still gotta look
Got
at
money.
the overall budget
yep,
that's coming in, cause when you have revenue decrease,
can't pay it.
and then you're talking about addressing every employee has to have the opportunity. Now, you can't just look at saying it's police department or dispatcher. If you're gonna make that rule, then you gotta feed all the employees.
Oh,
So
shit.
that's why I say that,
So that was my take on,
that would be, I think that would be I think that would be a heavy burden on the city. That's just my take on it.
hey, do we have any other? Comments or? Comments or suggestions on the pay scale?
I would like to actually review that a little bit more based on past budgets and et cetera. And not only that, just look at the revenue stream and of the previous years. I mean, we're talking about this tax digest, et cetera. So we need to have a clear understanding how previous budgets have been adopted. And the most important is the revenue source, revenue pattern for the county, for the city. We definitely need to know where we are. Because if our population is decreasing like that, and our expenses only going the opposite direction, you can't sustain this.
So let me ask you this, so you're saying that, you would like to look further about the pay scale so that we can not have the 10-year, right?
No, right now, my understanding, the 10-year philosophy is not in the budget. Okay? I would even ask the question, why 10 years? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's 10 years or more.
But that's something you're choosing to adopt, is that correct?
No.
Is that correct?
I mean, in the past, that's what was on here, and that's why I, spoke with Mr. Darwin, we couldn't include that, it was in the budget to do that,
Well,
but we took it
clarity
out,
on that.
but it's been taken out.
Now
we're just
in the
gonna
pay
agree
scale,
with-
there are lines for different, job titles that have, if you've been here for 10 years or more, you're under this pay. For less than 10 years, you're at another pay. So, I don't know that we've ever had put people into those, increased pays. Everybody's been kind of stayed down in the same job title. You'd have to move them up to the other job title to get them up to the additional pay. So, the pay scale sort of already has some components of adding in a 10-year raise in essence,
Okay.
but there's nobody there in those positions as it stands right now. That's getting the additional bump in pay by being here more than 10 years. And you could, that's certainly something y'all could look at, whether it's, this year or next year or, sometime this year. You could even do a pay study of, what is reasonable pay for, the city of Gordon compared to other cities. How long are your people staying here? How many do you have that are over 10 years, and kind of come up with the statistics of it, and then try to incorporate that into your budget, and then figure out, is it 10 years, or do you wait, or is it just 5 years? You want to give people a bump in pay for 5 years, or 15, or 20? You could, it's not set in stone that it has to be 10 years. You guys would decide, what you're going to increase the pay, based off of seniority, if it's 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. That's entirely up to you guys.
Yeah, and I see it's still on here, did we adjust the pay scale to take that?
Yeah.
I see it's still on here.
Well, it's on there, but they're the same pay as the other dispatcher. The pay is the same. There's a job title that says dispatcher 10+ years, but the pay is the same as dispatcher.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So what, did we ever approve the proposed budget?
No, we haven't done, we haven't approved it yet. We need to go back and check on the, Parks and Recreation to make sure that's, on, is 2,000 instead of 8,000.
Are you talking about the electricity and the recreation?
It's supposed to be modeled at,
Not park, I'm sorry, not Parks and Recreation, it's just recreation.
Okay.
it's supposed to be 10,000.
Okay.
So we got this renovation with it.
The recreation budget is, it's only got building repairs and maintenance for 1,500, materials for 200, and electricity for 8,000. So we saying the 8,000
Yeah, the
should
eight,
be
it should have
10?
been 10.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could, you know, if this is up to you guys, you could, I guess when the motion is made, you could make the motion that you approve the budget with the change of the recreation electricity from 8,000 to 10,000.
Okay.
You know, so it's not like you, because there is additional change that needs to be made, that can't be done now.
Okay.
And just to make sure, like I said, that it's just part of the motion that you're making the motion based off the change from 8,000 to 10,000, so you're adding 2,000 more expenses to the budget.
So everything else all right, other than that part, that recreation?
Yes. We've already did well, this is just the budget, we'll go to the pay scale, cause it has to be done separately.
Just have one question in reference to the pay scale again, in terms of, given the fact that the 10-year line item is in there, I guess why hasn't it never been implemented?
It's a good question.
I never seen it before.
Okay,
I think this first year's actually been in it.
so, all right. And how long, what are the different tenures in the employees in the department, the dispatchers, I'm assuming? What's the tenure for your dispatchers?
What's the 10-year?
What's the years of service?
I've got 2 of them over 20 years that's been with me. And I guess it's every 10 years you get like a little increase in pay. That's all I know of.
Double justice.
That's why they always did the 3% across the board, because if you've been here 5 years, you're automatically gonna get a bigger increase at 3% than somebody's only been here 1 year.
And then you gotta look at, you gotta factor into this too, if they're getting it every other year instead of waiting 5 years or 10 years, it's still an advantage. Instead of waiting 5 years and then you get your increase 10 years and then you get an increase. Cause cost of living in between those times, cost of living is going up. So
you wanna take that 10 years out?
that's what I was telling Mr. Garvin, I see, we just gonna take that 10 year out. So that,
Yeah, I mean, you could take that job title
yeah.
out of there, cause like I said,
Yeah.
the pay is the same as the line right below it, it just says dispatcher certified.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't affect the budget
Yeah.
at all, it's just, you know, removing that job title as, you know, from the pay scale.
Exactly.
And you should be, you could, make the same when, you know, when you get ready to vote on the pay scale, just make the motion with the same
Same thing.
kind of correction you're being made to the pay scale.
Okay. But other than that, that's all on the pay scale.
Okay.
Alright. So are we ready to adopt the budget, proposed budget?
Make a motion, we adopt this proposed budget
With the 8,000
With,
to 10,000.
with the changes that took,
Okay, in recreation.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no?
Mhm.
All right, got the pay scale.
Given the fact that the proposed budget did not pass,
This is doing the salary scale.
yeah, it's just, we need to take that.
So, okay, so you're not, if we're not gonna, help me out here. If we're not gonna do the proposed budget, we're not gonna accept the Attorney Nichols, what do we need to do? Because that was the last, thing we need to do to get everybody, get us in budget and everything working in the city. So what do we need to do?
Well, it's obviously failed in this meeting. I guess one thought would be you could bring it up at a future meeting.
Okay.
That would be one option, I would think. But, I mean, I think right now it fails. It fails
Okay.
for lack of the 4 votes needed.
Okay, so if that's gonna fail, do we need to proceed with the pay scale?
I would guess not,
Okay.
but
That's
I
fine.
don't know what all's involved in the pay scale. I haven't seen anything related to it, so I don't know.
So we will have another meeting this year, cause we gotta get it, where it needs to be.
Well, I make
Okay.
a motion that we, table the salary scale.
Okay,
I second that motion.
any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All in favor by saying no?
Is that 4A's?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, go ahead.
What about setting the mill rate? 'Cause, you know, we still haven't ran the 5-year history or anything in the
None of
paper,
it.
so you can't do any installing everything in it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right, yeah, I mean, you could, I don't know when y'all are having those discussions, you know, in regards to the millage rate. But, you know, you're gonna have, that's a kind of a whole different, process, because you have to have, I guess, discuss it at a council meeting, and then you're gonna have potentially public hearings, if the millage rate is changing, run the 5-year history, that whole thing. So, yeah.
Well, I may have to call you tomorrow. I know they sent me forms from the tax office wanting them filled out, but I didn't want to do anything until after the meeting tonight.
Right.
So that's gonna hold up the tax digest too. I mean,
Yes.
so we'll hold it all at once.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I thought. I just wanna make sure.
Okay, next we have on the agenda the updated water and sewer ordinance, first reading.
Yes, Mayor, so, this is really somewhat of a formality. This goes back to, I believe in October, y'all voted on, or you considered 3 different options on what to do regarding your, kind of water and sewer situation. And you, at that point, you voted to go with, I believe it was option 2, which related to building a new sewage treatment plant. And so those recommendations have been put together by Bill Powell. I don't remember if he was here for that meeting or not, but I tend to think he was. But anyway, he presented y'all about a 33-page document with the different options. You voted on the second option, which was to build a new water sewage treatment plant. So what we've done, and I think you have, there's kind of 2 parts to what I have for you. One is the actual just updated ordinance relating to water and sewer. The only substantive change that we've made to that is under section 14-5, which is on the second page of it. And all we really did there was, as you can see, it says rates and charges for water and sewer are on file with the city clerk and may be adjusted from time to time at the discretion of the council upon majority vote. That's that goes back to, the idea that before you had rates written in there, but they were, changed, and there had been some handwritten changes in your ordinance, and so we decided it would probably just be, and this is kind of my suggestion here, it would be easier if we just kept the rates on file with the clerk, rather than every time they change, having to either go change your ordinance or make handwritten changes. Just seems cleaner to just have the rates on file with the clerk. So that's why it's written, that's why that change is there. There were some other things that have been handwritten in here on your ordinance, and we just went ahead and, we made those clean where they're not handwritten anymore, but they were things that had already been changed. So that's the only change, substantive change to your ordinance, is that the rates would be kept on file with the clerk. The second part of this is just the resolution that actually that shows those rates, which I believe you also have. And this was provided by Bill Powell, kind of a sample resolution he's used with, or provided to other municipalities that he has helped. And so this is a simple resolution, and I'll read it to you, just so everybody can hear it who's here in the audience. So this is water and wastewater rates and charges. Whereas the city of Gordon has established a water and wastewater utility to provide for supply of potable water and to provide for sewage treatment and disposal in the community, and whereas an updated water and wastewater rate analysis was performed for the city of Gordon by the Georgia Rural Water Association and was accepted by action of the City Council on October 21, 2024. And whereas the Council of the City of Gordon has adopted a water and wastewater ordinance which provides for establishment and revision of charges for water and wastewater services to be accomplished by resolution of the City of Gordon. Now therefore be it resolved that the scheduled rates for water and wastewater services shall be as noted on the attached Exhibit A, and be it further resolved that the foregoing rate and fee schedules upon approval of this resolution by the City Council shall become effective as of January 1, 2025, and shall be reflected in the billings to customers, beginning with bills sent out for time periods beginning January 1, 2025. And so Exhibit A is one page. These are the same rates, that y'all considered and voted on back in October. They show both the water rates at the top and the sewer rates at the bottom. And so that is what this is about. This is what the resolution and the ordinance relate to. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all may have about it. And I'm sorry, I'll add one other thing. So when Mr. Powell sent me his proposed resolution, which you have here, he also included a lot of additional, a few additional pages of other charges and fees that you might want to consider using and updating your ordinance with. And so I initially sent those to Tawana, but then as I looked at it a little more, I told her, we don't need to mess with that right now. We just need to focus on where the actual water and sewer rates. You may, as you get into 2025, want to look at revising and updating some of those fees and charges. Things like, if somebody didn't pay their bill, what's the charge to get it hooked back up? Some of what you have in your current ordinance may be a little bit dated, and so I would probably recommend you actually look at updating some of those fees and charges, those administrative costs. But that's something I think for another day. I would recommend we wait till 2025. You need to go ahead and get these in place so that, again, you can get your bills where they need to be, charges where they need to be just for the water and sewer, so you can start building up that fund to show lenders that you have the financial wherewithal to actually build that new sewage treatment plant.
Okay. All right. So that's our first reading of this, right? So we have to do another. One more.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
That is all. I would say the one thing I would recommend, and you're meeting again next Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend, I did talk to Twan about this, that you run some ads in the newspaper, and assuming this passes, I would expect it would, because you've already voted on it once to do it. But I think you ought to run some ads in the newspaper to let people know that rates will be going up January 1, so that.
Well, what about, doing it in the paper and putting it in the bill?
Sure, yeah, I mean, however you normally kind of post things so people will know about it, I would recommend you do that.
All right?
Need a
Next,
motion.
We have to make a motion on the first reading?
No, the first reading.
no.
Supposed to.
Okay, well, next we have the planning and zoning, board recommendations. Did Heather give you all the recommendations in your box? I think she put them in, yeah, she did. I haven't, I don't see any recommendations. I see Ms. Terry Ann is here. Do you have the recommendations that were done from that meeting, and only the recommendations from that meeting?
Miss Lewis wasn't at the meeting, she was the only one that wasn't there. For the rest of it, everybody voted no.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Everybody have it, it's here. I'm sorry.
They do have it.
Yeah, they have a copy of it, I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask a question.
No, well, we're gonna hold it right now, Ms. Terry.
Yeah. Let me know.
Okay, so, as you all may know, that the planning and zoning did their due diligence and did the, they had a meeting in reference to 198 Millersville Highway, where there, was a tiny home that was put there. Is Ms. Lokita here?
That's it.
No, she's not.
Lokita? Okay.
Cool.
And, in doing so, we do have, the community that was not, pleased with that going in. However, Ms. Lakito, she was here, she could explain it more. But we had Ms. Lakita to go out, which she is the code enforcer, and she goes out and she made recommendations, yay or nay, if it's able, if they're able to put this property on whatever, the dwelling on whatever property they have. So, we've given that recommendation, it was brought back to the city. And, saying that it was approved. However, from that decision, a lot of things transpired. And, we are here today now with recommendations as to what we need to do, because what has happened is a lot of things have not been followed. A lot of things should have been done, was not done. And, as always, I'll tell everybody, it has to be right. Whatever's in that ordinance, we have to go by that ordinance. And so, when we put people in place to make sure that things are right, that's what we as council, should go by. So right now, we're at the point where, we have a, tiny home, which we don't have an ordinance on tiny homes. And so, I think we're just basing it off of the ordinance that we do have in place for homes, period. So, we're at the point now where a tiny home has been placed on 198 Millersville Road, and, it's in question as to does it meet should it have been put there, should it have been put there, been given the okay to be put there according to the ordinance and the guidelines that we should have, that we have outlined with the city of Louisville. So, going through planning and zoning, they have established a decision to say no. It wasn't put there, correctly. So now, they're bringing it before council. Because you can, in some instances, you can get a variance as to allow the home to be there or not. So now, we're at city council to see what you all think about it. What are your decisions, about this?
I'd like to read the request.
Oh, can you please not talk out Ms. Tillman?
Well, tell everything, tell it
Okay.
all.
I'm gonna have to excuse you, Ms.
That's
Terry.
fine.
Okay, well, can you please be excused?
Y'all need to
Thank
look
you.
at the permit,
Thank you.
because it's not handled right.
Please, can you be excused?
We also have some neighbors.
Can you please be excused? No more
They would
talking
like to
in
speak.
here.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Terry.
you.
She knows she's wrong.
So what are y'all's decision?
I mean, I don't agree with it. And I'm still trying to figure out why it didn't go before planning and zoning before it was put there.
I would like to know that too, because it's one of the premises why I ran, when I said city council and planning and zoning are not on the same accord.
Exactly.
Okay, that's posted on my Facebook page, go out there and look at it. And I've seen what politics get into this, especially this little particular location. I mean, if it just wasn't followed, the proper protocol wasn't followed, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we just need to follow the rules. If we're allowing people not to follow the rules, then there's no reason for us to be here. I mean, this to me, this makes no sense. Not that I'm for or against it. I mean, I like the ordinance that we are to consider in reference to a tiny home. It was properly, well written. The 180-day moratorium. That's why council need to sit down and discuss these things and come up with a proper resolution to this. I mean, but right now, it appears to me that the current laws right now has not been abided by. I mean, this is, I don't know why this is, I know it has to come before council, you can have some variances, but.
That's right,
I
that's my take on it.
I
If
don't
it's-
agree with that.
Exactly. So, we have these ordinances, everything put in place, but are they being followed by?
That's what I want to know. And I think it's incumbent upon us to find out why or what happened in the process. I mean, because when you present this stuff here, evidently, I'm not getting a full detail. Now, I can go back and read these notes, etc., but I would like to hear from the code enforcement.
Exactly.
Because,
Right here tonight.
yes, and understand or try to get clarity as to what happened in the process.
But the ordinance is there.
I see what
The
the
code
ordinance is.
enforcer look at the ordinance. And from my understanding, and I guess you all can agree with me, you have to, when you go out and somebody coming in, you know, with, you're the code enforcer and you coming in and you need to bring your property in. I'm trusting, we're paying people to do these jobs, and I'm entrusting that they're gonna do their job. So my thing is, there's a disconnect from there to what's the next step. When you're going out, I think there's some inconsistencies between, you know, what's supposed to happen.
Well, there,
Because when it gets to me, it's a whole bunch of worms, you know, unleashed together.
all right, this is what I need to know for clarity for myself. In terms of planning and zoning, reviewing, giving a yay or nay in reference to any particular property, what's the next step? Is there any documentation confirming? I see the vote, etc. But once it is approved, let's say it's a particular property is approved, or by planning and zoning. Okay, what is the next step? Does the code enforcer issue the permit?
No. The code enforcer goes out first. From my understanding, it goes from the code enforcer and then it needs to go to planning and zoning, but that step never happened.
So the code enforcer goes out first and evaluate the property
Yeah.
to see if the property meet the right criteria to establish residence.
Correct.
Okay, and so if the code enforcer went out, and now she has to come back and report to planning and zoning, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so if the code enforcer went out to evaluate the property, and why is this disconnect between the code enforcer
Because I
and
think
planning and zoning? Where's, and this is where okay, I'm trying to follow the logic. We have a tiny home that has already been moved there. And now I don't know, but the tiny home has already been in place, right? And I don't know which date it was, because I wasn't made aware until the last council meeting that it was there. Okay, and then this November the 26th, I'm thinking this is a call meeting in reference to planning and zoning, addressing tiny home. Something about this flow is not right. And so, rather than us just looking at this lightly, I think we need to delve deep into this and find out what happened specifically.
Well, the code enforcement is not here to answer those
Well, we
questions,
need
and
to
I
make
would
sure.
love to have the code enforcement
Well, we need to make sure the code enforcement
to answer these questions,
is
because
here
these are
to
questions that we cannot answer.
Well, we definitely need to make sure that, even if we're not addressing this particular issue, we need to make sure, surely she knows the rules, right? I mean, I guess I can't answer that question. I can't ask that question, but rather, if she can come, but to me, because the city can be facing lawsuits here. You see, on either part now, because this, you got to respect people's property. It's not saying that I'm against tiny homes going forward. I think the zoning, the moratorium will address proper places to put establishments such as, wait on a second. The moratorium will address, we want to establish a proper plan in the zoning ordinance. It would address issues like that, because this is people, it's the neighbor's value of their property. And when you do stuff like that, you're causing the citizen money in an indirect way. Okay, because whether or not, we don't know, there's some people's homes the greatest investment. And surely you want to maintain the credibility of the neighborhood. I think I just think that's proper. You know, and if you don't abide by that, I think that's a major blow in the face of the citizens. I myself personally would be highly upset
I would too.
if that happened. And so we have to treat people just like we would like to be treated, and the best thing to do is follow the rules that are here.
Correct.
And that's what it is. It's take the respect the person out, let's follow the rules and go by that.
And I can't say we can't move any forward, with this going on. We can't go any further with this.
Yeah,
We can't
it's
we can't go any further doing this, allowing,
Do you know that the council gets final vote? This may be the first time y'all ever voted on zoning issue, I can't remember. But y'all know the council has the final say so.
Yeah, well, that was gonna be my next question. Is it the proper procedure is that the code enforcer go out and evaluate the property, then the code, she reports to planning and zoning.
On certain issues.
On certain issues.
Only certain things like special exceptions, not everything has to go for the code enforcement officer. If it's cut and dry, the planning zone says you can put this 1,500 square foot modular home on this R1 1 acre lot in an R1 area, you can do it. They usually poll the neighbors though, because it is a residential neighborhood, but only certain things have to go for the zoning board, but for special exceptions, you do have to go for a zoning board. And this should have went to zoning board first.
so that's where we're trying to find
When
the
we ever
disconnect.
came here.
So
Before
now,
the disconnect, well, I mean,
so now that leads to another question to confirm for the council to be made aware of anything that is happening in reference to whether it's planning and zoning is involved or the code enforcer. Is there a way that council be notified regardless of which way it goes? through the whole entire process? Saying that the planning and zoning approved the property?
But that's what they did tonight. They can't vote, they can only vote within their board, but they cannot make the final decision. They can only make a recommendation to council. For
Okay.
what, after they review the zoning ordinance, they're supposed to base their decision off of that, and then they'll come and make their recommendation, which this is the minutes that Heather presented. And usually your secretary to your zoning board, which is Miss Terry Ann, or the chairman, which is Miss Sherry Ann, she will report on this also. We
Okay.
usually let them speak. Cause they got background information we don't have here. They can answer questions like y'all asking tonight that we wouldn't know.
Okay.
But see, there's plats and there's deeds should be attached to this, a drawing of the tiny home.
And who does that?
But, the code enforcement officer working with Heather, they get all that together, but that's really the code enforcement officer's job. And then she turns it all in, and she's supposed to review it, and if it's not something she can prove on her own, then she's supposed to call the zoning board meeting.
Do y'all have any of that documentation?
Okay.
That's all Heather, they need to see, but she would have all that though.
So Tawana, once the zoning, she turns it over to the zoning board, does city council notify of the findings?
That's what this is tonight.
Okay.
That's what this is.
So we would know that whether it is in any circumstances, what I'm asking.
If it goes for the zoning board, they can't make it, all they can do is make a recommendation. They cannot make the final decision. The city council has final say so.
But I think
And
he
that's why
said,
this is coming in
I
tonight.
think he said any recommendation.
Any recommendation.
But
I'm
if
talking-
y'all, pretty much council's gonna ask anything they wanna ask on. You can get with the code enforcement anytime, or Heather, and if you wanna see a particular application, it's public knowledge, is what I'm trying to say. And anytime y'all want to come in, you with Heather, the code enforcement officer, they could show you the paperwork, or whatever, the files, past building permits. I mean, it's all public
I
knowledge.
guess what I'm saying too, so, say for example, I'm saying if planning and zoning even approves it, does it still come before council?
Councilman Powell, so the issue, they don't approve anything, planning and zoning doesn't approve anything, they just make a recommendation to either approve it or to deny it. And then y'all make the decision, either we agree with what that recommendation is or we disagree with it.
Okay.
But the only reason that planning and zoning do that if they have an exception. But and you clarify if I'm wrong, if anybody come in and say, hey, I need this here, and like Tawana was saying, if it's in the, guidelines, they can go ahead and put them in there. They can go ahead and give them the permit to put there. But what you're saying, where you're wanting to know that right there also, right?
Yes, I think council should know that. I mean, just even for just informative, because to me, that would provide proper oversight to make sure the flow is being followed throughout the entire process.
You could come in and ask Heather, and like he just say, anytime you got anything come up, please, we would like copies of it, or we would like to know about it. I mean, you could.
It just seems, to me, it just seems logical to use that, check, okay.
But you gotta keep in mind too, anything goes for the zoning board, it might be a conflict of interest. If y'all knew ahead of time what they were discussing in there, cause y'all gotta come out here and vote on it. And like me, I can't get involved with planning and zoning cause it's conflict of interest for the city clerk to be involved. So I don't know that you would wanna, I don't know if it would be proper for them to go to the meeting. Attorney Nichols could answer some of that, you have to be real careful.
Yeah, and so I think the normal process would be, somebody wants to do something that relates to code enforcement or zoning. They're gonna have the code enforcement person come out there, look at whatever they wanna do. The code enforcement person would then decide, yeah, you can do that, it fits within our rules, or no, it doesn't, and that's when it then goes to Heather, I believe that's who you're
Heather
directing.
does that part.
Heather would kind of oversee, look at what the code enforcement officer recommends. And if it's all good, it fits within the ordinance, there's no issues, then Heather's gonna say that's fine, and it's never gonna go to the planning and zoning commission, because it doesn't need to. It's good. Now, if somebody thought, wait a minute, I think Heather and the code enforcement officer are wrong, they shouldn't have approved that, then they could, in essence, file a request for this to be heard by the planning and zoning commission, but that's probably pretty rare. It's typical that something gets to the planning and zoning commission because someone wants to do something outside the norm of what is allowed in your zoning ordinance. That's when it normally should end up going to your planning and zoning commission. And then they hear it, they make a recommendation to this body, and then this body makes the final decision on what to allow or not allow.
Okay, Attorney Nichols, let me ask you this question. We're at this point now where this has happened. We need to know, what do we need to do? What is the recommendation as far as the council? Because right now that person has been told by the code enforcer that they were allowed to put it there, and it's there. It's there. So we gotta make a decision because it's there.
Well, and
You gotta understand, people have used money, their money to put this stuff there is not cheap. So then you got, on the other hand, you got our community, I would be upset, but they're in an uproar too because, hey, nobody told about this. And this is not right. This is not even in code.
what, and I may have missed it, what did your planning and zoning commission, what was their recommendation to y'all?
Turn it down.
They said
Turn it
Turn it
down.
down, not to allow it.
No, they ain't got no recommendation.
It's in the, on
It's at
second
the
page,
bottom.
Mr. Hale.
It's at second page, at the bottom.
Yes,
So
All of them voted no.
y'all voted no.
Okay, so Mayor, one, I would say, you had your planning and zoning commission folks there for a reason. They're supposed to be the ones who really look at this, and they don't make the final decision, but they make a recommendation. I would say, one, you need to give that a lot of weight when you make your decision, because that's in essence, those are sort of like your experts who you have appointed to look at whether we ought to do this or not. So if they've recommended to not approve it, to deny it, then I think, again, you ought to give that a lot of weight
Okay,
in
so,
making your decision.
so either way, the city is up. Because you gotta look at this person has been told they was approved, got a permit, and put this dwelling on that property. And then you got another one in the community that's the same thing. The same thing, this is not the person, this is the same thing. So,
And this is y'all's decision.
I know.
Ultimately, that's y'all's decision to make. Again, I think Councilman Powell was making some very good points about if it didn't go through the right process, then that's a problem. And my recommendation would be you follow what your planning and zoning board recommended to you here.
but you gotta look at this too, let me tell you, let's put it all out there. You have we have this situation now, we have another situation that did the exact same thing, didn't go through the planning and zoning. All this is being thrown up at the council, they went through the same thing, so if we decide that we know we're not gonna allow them to come in, and for X, Y, and Z, you gotta go to the others and tell them, no, they gotta move that one.
Well, and not necessarily, because those things, I think you're talking about things that happened in the past, right? So, to some extent, that's the past, and you can't do anything about that. What you can do is you can do the right thing right now, follow the rules as they should be followed, and I think you've now done that. This has gone to your planning and zoning commission. Now they've made a recommendation to you. I think you do the right thing in this instance. Whatever may have happened in the past, and I don't know what all the details were of all those things that may have happened in the past, but you can't, whatever happened in the past should not determine what you do now.
Okay, that is the reason why I reached out to you to get this more random moratorium. And you heard tonight that it was cut down. So guess what? We're gonna run back into the same thing.
Well, and that's possible.
In the
Yes,
near
ma'am.
future.
That's possible, but
This moratorium will define and tell you, hey, this is where we need to go in this ordinance, because you gotta be realistic. Tiny homes probably wasn't there when they did the ordinance. and it's new to a lot of, communities. So we need something in place.
And you may be right, Mayor, but the moratorium, the point of that was to say, just nobody can bring any kind of tiny home request before the city for 6 months while y'all figure out what your ordinance ought to be, and you put in place, rules and regulations for tiny homes in the city. But even though that didn't pass, you can still move forward, and we can still look at putting some things in place. It's just, we can't prevent someone, tomorrow, if they want to, from coming into City Hall and saying, well, I want to put a tiny home here. Well, now you just gotta kind of consider it, and it's gotta go through the process. You can't simply say to them, I'm sorry, we've got a moratorium on that, we're not considering any tiny homes right now. You gotta wait 6 months. So someone may come do that, but they may not. It's not the end of the world. We can certainly still deal with it, even though the moratorium didn't pass. And that's that's a little bit of a different issue than this. This is a specific instance that has now gone through the right process. You've been given a recommendation. And so now, y'all get to decide, either you agree with the recommendation from planning and zoning, or you don't. But it sounds like, again, I would give great weight to what planning and zoning recommended, and that would be my advice to you. And by the way, again, what was their reason for their recommendation? Y'all may have said it, and I just missed it.
No reason, just no.
Well, they say it didn't meet the requirements, the footage, the square. Let me get this right here.
Thank you.
Sure. Don't meet the square footage requirement for the lot zone.
Oh, okay, at the top. You see that top where it says the neighbor?
The property got to be so big, and the house had to be so big also.
These are unapproved minutes to their draft.
Again, I would give great weight to what they said. If it doesn't meet the square footage requirements, and that's sort of the easy no, frankly. You can't do it because it doesn't meet the square footage requirements that are in your ordinance.
So you can't compare that one to that one, this is different. If the requirement, it don't meet the requirements, it's just don't meet the requirement. So you can't be there.
Right.
Do we know square footage of this tiny home?
No, I don't know the person.
Because I'm assuming the planning and zoning had that
400
information.
square feet is.
You see what I'm saying? See, that's what I'm saying. So it requires council to be an expert on things that they shouldn't even be involved at. You have to accept the recommendation of planning and zoning, and that is something that they would talk about. You see, and so, to me, it's clear cut. It's in detail here, and I hate that it happened. The mayor, that's why I said it's. I vote to accept the recommendation of the planning and zoning, and I still would like to look into this.
And as well as our code enforcer
Yeah, we got to find out.
has to,
That's your,
Let's
that's your
find out
motion.
what the disconnect is. You see, because this is costing people money either way. So we got to find out what the disconnect
we don't have that.
is. So this is clear cut to me. This is just, I make a motion to accept the planning and zoning recommendation.
I'll second.
In discussion. All in favor by saying aye? All not in favor by saying no? Next we have our next council meeting will be December the 16th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Next we have adjourned.
16.
Yes.
I'll bet you. Make a motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, Mr. Boyke.
Yes, we were supposed to be on the agenda for recommendation of an engineer tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was supposed to amend the agenda to add, I'm sorry, Mr. Boyke. We have to get this on here about the, yeah, I need to.
I make a motion that we amend the agenda to include, what's his name?
Mr. Boyke,
Mr.
Middle Georgia
Boyke,
Regional.
Middle Georgia Regional Commission.
I say. And rescind that motion.
Okay. You didn't have a second anyway.
Yeah.
You're all right.
Okay.
Bill for lack of second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor by saying aye? All not in favor by saying no? Okay, Mr. Boyke.
Great, thanks. We'll try to make this quick here. Brought my colleague, Mr. Brandon Fambro along. So this is his first time visiting Gordon here, and he'll give you the spiel of everything while I pass out the handout that we received. So we've got the city of Gordon asked us to look at proposals for engineering services, and Brandon's got a memo detailing our findings that he's going to go over with y'all.
Good evening, everyone. So a couple of months ago, September, we were tasked, the Middle Georgia Regional Commission, with finding a new engineer for the city going forward with the next 5 years for city improvements. After the ad was placed in the newspaper, we received 2 responses, one from W&A Engineering and another from Turnip Seed Engineering. W&A Engineering is based in Athens, Georgia, and based on the packet that we received, we rated their experience as moderate, their staffing capacity as excellent, and their project approach as excellent. Turnip Seed Engineering, they are based in Atlanta, but they have an additional office in Augusta. Their experience was rated as excellent, their staffing capacity was rated as excellent, and the project approach was also rated as excellent. These scores were determined by a panel consisting of myself and 2 of my colleagues, and individually we scored each proposal based on a rubric that we have, and the scores are totaled and averaged together. So you can see that at the bottom of the memo. And based on our scoring, we recommend that Turnip Seed Engineering is the firm of choice. This is due to them having a greater experience and greater portfolio that's more diverse in their findings, or in their past projects, excuse me. So they have more projects done in general in the past 3 years. Additionally, they also have completed projects within the region, one in Milledgeville, which was sewer improvements, and another in Irvington, which was water system, roadway, and drainage. Additionally, Turnip Seed also has a lower cost of fees available as well than W&A Engineering.
Thank you so much. So moving forward, do we need to go ahead and vote on this, or, okay? All right.
We've already hired.
Yeah, we've already
I was just
hired.
wondering if somebody was gonna say.
No, they just-
Y'all had already hired her.
Yeah, what's going
looking at
on, but
like-
you do have to go through and, just through the proper channels with Middle Georgia Regional.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that, they're the ones that, they do a lot of our,
Yeah,
Okay.
if I may add, Mayor,
Okay.
so there are certain grant programs, such as GFA in particular, which I believe is a funding source that y'all are looking at, that require what's called a qualifications-based
Yeah.
selection process in order to get grant funding or federal loan funding to pay for the engineering services performed. So the recommendation would be to ratify any previous decisions that may have been made on a temporary or interim basis, in alignment with the qualifications-based procurement that was completed, so that this is eligible for future grant funding reimbursement.
Okay. So we just make it.
Well, I make the motion that we'll approve Turner City Engineer, give the Middle Georgia region.
I second the motion.
Any discussion?
Sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then he said, look,
Have y'all adjourned yet?
Yes,
make a motion to adjourn.
That's okay.
any discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All not in favor by saying no?